Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the IMPLAN April product webinar. We are excited to spend a little bit of time with y'all this afternoon. We're going to give everybody maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to join here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So sit tight, and we will be right with you. All right, we're starting to see that attendees number settle out a little bit, and we do have a very packed itinerary today, so we will go ahead and get it rolling. As I said before, welcome to the April IMPLAN product webinar. We're excited to spend a little bit of time with you all this afternoon. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself. This is Daniel Dewar, the Senior Product Manager for IMPLAN. I'm joined by our Senior Product Manager in Chief and Economic Help, Maria Lucas. And then our Vice President of Customer Success and Education Services, Candy Klaus, is also monitoring the chat. So there will be, live chat reply to any questions that come through there. And then if we have additional questions that merit wider discussion, we'll have a full Q&A session here at the end of this as time permits. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dig in. A little bit on really what we're going to be talking about today before we jump right in. We're going to be reviewing sort of the state of IMPLAN's product roadmap. So what has come out in the past 6 months, what we've already delivered on, especially as of last night's release, things you can find in the platform today and really come and sort of sink your teeth into right now. We're also going to be looking ahead, of course, and that's going to kind of get divvied up into 2 categories, next and later. And then, of course, we'll have the QA as well. We wouldn't be, doing our jobs if we weren't also plugging the other areas where we can connect with y'all. I know we don't have to tell folks on this call how to access our webinars, but for anybody watching this in the future, of course, you can always sign up for webinars like these on our site, and the newsletter that we publicize is also available via a sign-up link on our website as well. Your friendly salesperson and or CSM is always available via email. Please don't hesitate to use them as a resource for really anything IMPLAN related. They are there for you. We'll kind of, I know we're a little bit vague with some of the timeframes for some of this stuff, especially the forward-looking releases, but I'll throw it over, Maria, to you to kind of talk a little bit more about how we're divvying up kind of the way we're talking about some of this stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks, Daniel. So as you can imagine, the certainty is a lot higher with the more current stuff. So now we'll be talking about in that section what's been delivered in the last 6 months or so up until last night's release. So we did our second release of the year last night. So we're excited to hit on some of those things that are brand new. Next, we'll include things that are included in the next planned version or 2, so things that are coming in the near term. And then later, we'll be covering things that are further down the line, things that are slated and being planned and workshopped for later this year. So as you can imagine, as we get towards that later section, the certainty decreases, but we're excited to share what we have in the works.
Thank you so much. We will go ahead and dig into what's been released up through last night for roughly about the past 6 months. When we started slicing and dicing this and figuring out kind of how we wanted to talk about it, we really divvied it up into the areas where you'll find some of these improvements, because we think that's where it's really going to materialize for y'all, the user. One of the categories that we'll review today is guides updates. So these are specifically looking at our guided workflows. They live in our guides tab on the dashboard and are generally focused around newer or returning users, and typically represent kind of a quicker and easier way to get to a brass tacks version of an analysis for a specific use case. You'll also see core feature updates here. When we say core, we simply mean our non-guided workflows. So this is the regions, impacts, results interface that everybody who's been using IMPLAN for a long time knows and loves. And then last but certainly not least, there have been a handful of data updates that we'd like to make sure that we surface for y'all, so that they can get utilized to the fullest, as the rest of the features in IMPLAN as well. Digging in on the guide side. So we're going to start off with our guided workflows like we were talking about. And we'll kind of try to keep this on a per feature basis to a little bit on the what and then really a little bit on the why. So what we're looking at here is template input for enterprise guide. So we're actually looking to add several additional input methods for our enterprise guide, and we'll talk about some of the other ones later. But this one allows us to use what is essentially a pared down version of our event template within the enterprise workflow. And when we say, event template, we're talking about a way where users can actually lay out their event data. So, looking at, event names, specifications, selecting the regionality for that event, all within a Excel spreadsheet, and then uploading that back into the guide. There are times where folks have data sometimes that is not necessarily conducive to manual entry. They might have a ton of different events they need to configure. They may have pretty repetitive stuff that just ultimately doesn't lend itself to typing every event into IMPLAN one by one. The goal here is to allow them to use a template that saves time and lets them do all of that at once in a format where it's easy to copy and paste and really manipulate data like that. Without having to deal with all the manual entry, because we know that your time is incredibly valuable, and we want to try to make sure that we are streamlining these workflows wherever we can. Moving on, one of our longer standing guides is mixed use development, and the what for this one is that we've added operational impacts to this workflow. So one of the things we heard when we first released it was, hey, this is great for allowing me to quantify, the construction impacts for my development as well as my, perceived housing impacts. But, how am I going to represent the businesses? And I'd like to be able to tie that all up in one neat analysis and really just kind of keep that whole package bundled up. And we said, you've got it. We tried to respond to that as quickly as we can, and we've folded in the same operational quantification workflow that we use in construction operations and some of our other guided workflows that allows you to use pretty much anything that you would see in an IIA data type. So if you have information like employment, for instance, you're still able to leverage that here. This really just lets you kind of create the complete picture of what your mixed use development will be representing from an economic perspective. So always nice when we can kind of expand the modeled picture essentially of what a user's situation is. And then we'll actually hop in a little bit early to a demo here. So we're going to spend 2 seconds talking about what the map embed represents. We are expanding our visual reporting capabilities within IMPLAN. And one of the ways in which we are looking to do that is by an actual 51 state map. So you can actually look at the impact of your analysis graphically here. You'll see this demonstrated live here in a second. But the other big ticket item here is that you are able to actually embed this in the front end of your website. So for folks with, let's say more of a marketing focused use case, you're actually able to have this become, a document that walks and actually leverage this in your own web-based experiences. So I'm gonna hop out of the deck for just a sec, and we're gonna hop over into IMPLAN, and we are going to take this for a spin. Maria, can you see IMPLAN on your screen? I just wanna make sure the screen share is working okay.
That looks great.
Sweet. So for anybody who might not know where to find these guides, I have this guide section actually moved to the top of my dashboard, but this is what you're looking for. This section entitled Guides has a small carousel here just on the dashboard that allows you to kind of quickly browse what we have available, but the entire guides library is available just via clicking View More Guides there. And you can see the use cases here that we support cover a wide variety of topics. We'll of course be looking at the Enterprise Impact Guide today, which is a broad multi-event, multi-region kind of guided workflow, whereas the others are a little bit more narrow and use case specific, but this one does a pretty good job of lending itself to a variety of uses. I'll click on that and you can you see that you get a quick blurb about how this functions, what it does, and what you'll need in order to use it. And so when I hop into that, you'll see that I'm presenting with a handful of questions. You get two real key choices when you start off with this guided workflow. You get really the first one being regionality. This one right here would allow me to select basically a 51 state MRIO is pretty much what this constitutes. So I'm going to be looking at reporting across the entire United States, no matter where my actual impact is. This option would allow me to just look at the regions and the impacts to the regions where my event is actually happening. So for folks that want to keep that analysis a little bit more grounded versus folks that want to look at a full US-wide impact, we have different workflows depending on what your needs are. And then we spoke briefly about the enterprise template upload as well. That's going to be this option right here. We'll use configure individually for this one because we won't be demoing the template today. I'm going to skip ahead just a teeny tiny bit. The regionality for this guided workflow actually gets set via the same map that anybody who's used IMPLAN before would be pretty used to. So I'm actually going to drill in here, and I'm going to choose a handful of counties here in both South Carolina and North Carolina, just to kind of show you how this functionality works. So I'm looking at, let's say, a chicken farming operation, and I have a couple of locations, one in Kershaw County, one in Union County, and one in Anson County. And I want to look at, here what that's doing, really, let's say on the wider US scale, just to, give it a little bit more punch. It's going to ask me, do I have more than one type of operation within any of the regions I've selected? And for my use case, I'm going to say no, just because I'm modeling the same kind of chicken farming operation in all three regions. If I did, it would simply ask me to, it would allow me to add more than one operation in a given region, but that's slightly more intricate than we need to be today. So you'll see that now once I've said, hey, yep, all my region or all my operations are the same in each region, I'm presented with the regions I picked and I can name them. I can start to tell IMPLAN what data I have for each one of these, and I can also tag these specific events if I want to segment my analysis by different factors. It's really pretty user dependent. I've already gone ahead and filled these in, so you don't have to watch me type because that's no fun. And you can see how, if I had more than one data type available here, I can leverage those. I can also get data point specific support resourcing here. If I want to click into each one, I can get articles, quick start videos, and just a general blurb about, hey, what is this? How do I use this again? For folks that may be returning or haven't touched IMPLAN in a little while. Once I've filled out all of my events, it's going to ask me to go ahead and select some specification codes for these events. So this is telling IMPLAN what kind of industry am I really truly working with. And again, it's going to say, hey, can we just ask you this once, or can we ask you this, on a per event basis? And for my specific situation, I don't need any per event specification variants. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, yeah, my events are all the same. I have pre-selected poultry and egg production here, but if I was unsure about what kind of industry I was truly representing, This next to IMPLAN bridge will let you just type in, let's say chicken farming, and that's the wrong term. We'll do poultry. And you can see that I get, a handful of selections here, and I can start to see that, well, if I'm working with chicken egg, production here, I'm really talking about IMPLAN code 13. And that's kind of the way that that all shakes down. I can select that. It's going to ask me for a dollar year for this analysis. We always define dollar year. That's pretty standard across any analysis, and it's going to let us know that IMPLAN has all of the bases covered as we're forming this analysis. The last thing that I'll see before I run this is a quick overview of what I've entered. So this is showing me on a by region basis, what event I've created, what data I've actually provided about that event, and what specification or industry I'm choosing to represent here. If you had more than $1 year in a given analysis, we would typically show you that, on a chronological basis, but we're only working with one here. And while we, through the movie magic, while we wait for this to run, we'll call this chicken farming 2. I've already gone ahead and clicked all the way through it so that we don't have to wait. This is what you'd be presented with when that analysis runs. So this is the embeddable map reporting format that we have. You'll see stuff as I'm mousing over kind of pop up there in that bottom row. And what that is it's representing the actual impacts to each of the regions that I'm mousing over. So you will remember I had impacts in both South and North Carolina. When I click into North Carolina, you can see that we have top line totals for all of the 5 major economic indicators that we're working with. So GDP, jobs, tax revenue, output, labor income. We have a visual representation of the effect types here. So you can see that my direct, indirect, and induced kind of split is graphically represented here. You can also see how this breaks down by the sort of sub-state regions that I had selected. So I can see what the actual effects to the counties where my events took place were, as well as the rest of North Carolina. Same situation for South Carolina. And again, the guide is rolling all of this up automatically. So it's creating that additional sort of rest of regionality by itself. So you don't have to go in and select, upwards of 50 counties, in a given state and that kind of stuff. I can still segment by tags. So if I'm looking at the, labor income here, I can turn one of the tags off, and we should see that change. That's really the gist here, is that I can segment these analyses. Yeah, there you go. By whatever factors I'd like to. So if you have industries that you want to group in specific ways, the tagging mechanism still allows all of that to come through and be shown here in the final map embed. And then the real rub here is that this thing can actually be embedded in your website if you are serving a marketing function or doing some sort of other web-based reporting. And one of the other things that we included with this is it's actually brandable. So I can come in and start tailoring this to my specific brand colors. I can be as absolutely garish as I want to be here, and start to show you exactly what that looks like when you do that. Because obviously you're going to want this to sort of live in your web environment with your branding and your look and feel, no matter who you are as a reporter dealing with your constituents. So once I've gotten this tailored exactly as I'd like, I can copy my embeddable code, and that's going to generate an iframe that you can drop into the front end of your site as you see fit. That is Map Embed in a nutshell, and we hope you enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead, Maria, and toss the share over to you, and we will get that going. Give me one sec. All right, that's all yours.
Great. Are you seeing where you left off in the map embed?
Perfect. You got it.
All right, great. Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, I love this feature, especially the way that it makes it so easy for you to set up a project and do a US-wide impact and get all of your interactions between those regions while just simply setting up your region and your input. So love the usability of this, and excited for people to use it and see this map in other places. We'll go ahead and jump into core feature updates. So now moving into the application outside of the guides, and Daniel's going to kick off one place where we're see some really nice transition from guide to core functionality in the app.
You got it. So you'll hear us talk about that sort of theme a lot today. Things that we've seen make a big dent in ease of use for folks. We are trying to transition those to, again, that core platform area or our non-guided workflows pretty much as quickly as we can, because we don't want anybody to be a second-class citizen. And if there's ease of use to be had, in one area, we want to make sure that we're making that as available as we can all across the platform. One of the ways that we're doing that is by bringing our summary reporting from our guided workflows over to the core platform. So the what here is we have summarized key takeaways from your analysis that really just focus on the 5 key economic indicators that I had touched on really briefly before. So, you have output, employment, labor income, GDP, and tax revenue. Those are the heavy hitters. And we bring all of that out from the analysis and all the tabular format data into just a quick slide with a small text blurb explaining what that is. You also get, at least for US analyses, a full granular tax breakdown. And you can also quantify effect type in the same sort of graph you just saw on map embed pretty quickly and easily. So it's just toggleable. And the why here is that not everybody's looking for full tabular format outputs all the time, and all of this is additive. So this is just another reporting option that you have available via dropdown when you complete your analysis. So we're really trying to give folks who are looking for just a more quickly simplified view of what their analysis represents, a way to view that. That's really the name of the game when we're talking about this, is something that you're not as in depth maybe as other users. Maybe you're looking for just the final number, and it's going to be something that you'll find here via drop down under summary moving forward. That puts a bow on that one, Maria. Let's move along.
Great, thanks, Daniel. All right, so one feature that you'll see is brand new as of the release last night is quite a big change to the industry aggregation section that you'll find under advanced tools. Previously, we were really limited in the capability of managing your aggregation schemes. And when you went into the aggregation section, you just see a drop down that lets you view and jump into projects using those schemes and, of course, creating new schemes. We've now made the page more of a management platform where you're able to delete schemes you're no longer using. Those deleted schemes will be soft deleted. So if you have any projects that use that scheme, they won't be continue to function as expected, but it helps you clean up that aggregation page so you don't have schemes that you're no longer using. We also made it easier for you to build schemes from old schemes, and we also created an ability to convert from one industry set to the next, since we just went through a transition our industry scheme. So I'll jump into showing you a demo of this in just a second. I'll show you 2 more items and we'll get into that. Projects page went under a really great update as well. You'll have search and filter ability, and you can also make some rearrangements here and make it really easy for you to find your projects. For me, I know I have tons and tons of projects, so foldering your projects and moving things around, consolidating can be helpful, and cleaning up your projects. So we have the ability to multi-delete, but also the ability to find your projects much more easily. Our project configuration file capability is a way of making sharing and validation more smooth and expanding the capability there. As you can see in the drop down in the image, we already have the ability for sharing and transferring projects, but the project config file takes things a step forward so that you can share a project, download the project as a JSON file, and look at that as a text file. So that's one really cool way to kind of view what was in your project without being in the app. And then if you share that file, it allows other users to recreate that project in a more holistic way. So you may be familiar with when you share projects and you had a custom scheme, that doesn't give that other user that aggregation scheme you built. But with the project configuration file, it extends to that functionality. So when you import a project configuration file, all the attributes about that project will be built on your system. So it's a really great way to collaborate with between users as well as work with internal folks at IMPLAN if you have questions and want to work with your CSM. That way it's easily, transferable, so to import that project and have it right there on another account. All right, so as I promised, we'll get into those 3 things inside the app. So first is industry aggregation. Really nice page here. You now have a table of all your schemes. The IMPLAN schemes will be listed first. You still, of course, have the ability to start a new scheme, and that functionality is really the same. A lot of new things happening here as well. You'll be able to click on an aggregation name, and that will open it up for you right there on the screen as a pop-up modal. And then you'll also see these 3 dots on all of our aggregation schemes. That's where you're able to access more of that management capability. So for IMPLAN schemes, we of course don't want those to be deleted. So there you'll see the options for duplicate or starting a new project with that scheme. But for your schemes, you'll have additional options. You can rename that scheme, you can delete it, duplicate it, or start that project with it. So when you duplicate, what that's going to do is start you off in a edit view of the scheme, but already have the scheme pre-built. So if I come in here, I might just want to make a couple tweaks and then I can hit complete and then I'll have my edited version of that scheme. I can, delete a scheme, an industry I don't want, so I can reorganize these however I may choose. We heard a lot of input from users that this capability would be really helpful for things like our 2- and 3-digit schemes. So here's the latest 2- and 3-digit NAICS scheme. So you can duplicate those and build your own scheme based off the tweaks you want to make there. And then the last item I wanted to touch on is this convert button. So if you have a scheme that you built in the 546 scheme, which was our most recent scheme that has now updated to 528, you can hit convert and it will start you off in a similar fashion as duplicate, showing you how we would map our 546 industries to 528 industries in your new scheme. Anything that doesn't cleanly bridge, you'll see it stays on the left-hand side and you can choose where to put those. So a lot of ease of use here that we're excited to introduce. Jumping over to projects, so I can touch on our searchability. Like I said, you can do a lot of capability to rearrange things, select the projects you want and move them to a folder, or I can choose to delete. That would delete all 3 selected projects. Or if I'm looking for a project, I can type in a keyword. Perhaps I want to see all my projects that I worked with in 546 that I named that way. Typing in your keyword and hitting enter will show you all those corresponding results. To get back to your project screen with no search, you just simply need to click on projects in that breadcrumb up at the top, and it'll take you back to a clean slate here. You also have the filter option if you want to kind of narrow down your search based on things that you know about your project, such as whether or not it has results and when you created it or when you last opened it. So this is a nice functionality if I just want to see what was I working on today. All right. And then finally, what we'll look at here is that project import. So importing projects, here is where you're going to be able to import a project configuration file. So if you have a project configuration file, it would have come from clicking into a project and choosing to export. And then when you choose to import, you can drop in that file. And a nice feature here is that we also have this checkbox. So I talked about some of the other capabilities with project configuration files. The one that I didn't hit is this checkbox here. You can easily update your project from one data year to the next by checking that box when you import your project. This does work for going from 546 to 528 as long as you're not doing customizations that we can't handle. If they're not valid, we'll let you know. But we've worked to accommodate as much use cases as possible with the conversion from 546 to 528. Of course, we're in 528 now, so going forward, that will be a much cleaner transition for any of your projects that you want to update to a new data year. All right. So coming back to our slides, I'll hit one more item here. Our GAMS file download. If you are in region details, you'll see a tab that says export. This is so that if you want to work with IMPLAN's SAM data or social accounting matrix data in a GAMS system, that's a general algebraic modeling system, you can do that. A lot of our users are interested in doing this to do more advanced modeling, dynamic modeling, where they can pull in other data points like elasticities, so they can model a computable general equilibrium model or CGE model. We've included two different file formats. The first file format is going to be a breakdown of different components of our SAM and give you about 26 different files. The same information is provided in the single file format, and we added that capability more recently to accommodate users who are following some historical instructions that do reference the single file. So if you're looking to go to that next level of a dynamic model and do CGE modeling, we accommodate that here. And lastly, we'll be talking about some data library slides, updates on Daniel's side.
Thank you so much. I really like all the easy use stuff you're showing off, Maria. That's really awesome. Shifting gears to data library for just a sec, we'll do a quick disclaimer for folks who may not either have access or know what data library is. So IMPLAN actually has a browsable repository for all the economic data that actually underpins the calculations that create your analysis outcomes. So that is a thing, first and foremost. If you don't have access to that, you can contact your salesperson or CSM to get access to it. There is a wealth of information available in there. It's included in all national packages, but can be added to others. So feel free to reach out today to try to get access for that. A little bit on the what for the enhancements here that we're making. We have revamped the entry point for data library to include information both on how to better use the library and what you can expect to find within it. We've also reworked the navigation to center more on the actual data itself that you're looking for when you visit data library. So users can actually start to browse the library simply by the data type that they're interested in, get more information about what's available for a given data type, and then browse directly to a dashboard or explore page from that same exact menu. So the why here, our previous entry point really didn't do that great of a job of explaining what was going on in data library. It really relied on users to kind of explore, poke around, and kind of figure it out mostly on their own. We are trying to have what was otherwise underutilized real estate kind of do some more of that heavy lifting for folks, and hopefully make data library more accessible and easier to use for first-time users and people returning to the platform. Maria, I think we can move on to data updates now, if you don't mind. And this next one is a little bit more of a sort of general call out. You can go to the next one. That's perfect. We have updated all of our guided workflows to the 528 aggregation scheme and our 2023 data set. So that's pretty much the what in a nutshell. When we have guided workflows that we roll out, a lot of those are pre-configured with a given data set and ag scheme. And sometimes they take a little bit more time to update when we roll out new data. We obviously don't want our guided workflows to be, sort of second class compared to, the general core platform or, the impacts-based UI that lots of folks use. So this is really just kind of in keeping with our efforts to try to keep all of our workflows relevant and impactful for users. I think Maria is going to tell us a little bit more about some environmental damages here in a sec.
Yes, thank you. So if you click into the environmental tab of your either region details or results, you'll see some additional options there. So we've been working on developing our environmental data so that we can present as useful metrics as possible. So at the initial release of environmental data where we had region details and results, so you can kind of both see where your region stands today with environmental outputs and metrics, as well as look at the environmental outputs associated with your impact. we were presenting just a summary that gave you a highlight of all of our different categories, things like greenhouse gases and the like. And we also had the environmental details, which broke down each one of those categories and provided you a breakout of all of the different specific environmental outputs within that category. The challenge we saw with this was that things like greenhouse gases really didn't stand at apples to apples when we were presenting that data, right? We were showing a list of different emissions and the total kilograms for each of those emissions. And so we were really looking to see how we could present our environmental impacts in a more meaningful way. And so we've added 2 additional tabs to show damages from greenhouse gases as well as damages from land use. They're both really valuable and give you a metric that can be more summarized and reported directly rather than showing someone a list of different chemicals, let's say, or emissions in the case of greenhouse gases, and land use in terms of different types of land use. We now are seeing those in a apples to apples way and can summarize those data points. So on the greenhouse gas side, we now have that presented in the damages for greenhouse gases as a CO2 equivalent. And so when you go there, you'll now see CO2 equivalent kilograms for different global warming potentials. Global warming 20, global warming 100, and global warming 1,000. Those figures represent different time horizons. So that would be the global warming potential over 20 years, 100 years, and 1,000 years. On the land use side, we have put everything in the equivalent of crop equivalent square meters as well as species years. So in both cases, we have what you would call a midpoint damage where all of our indicators are in like units. And then for land use, we take that a step further and convert our crop equivalent square meters into species years. So that gives you a true indicator of the damage that is created. On the global warming side, CO2 equivalence is really the standard in environmental impact reporting. So we're glad to be able to present that. We look to continue to expand this. So please let us know what environmental indicators you're most interested in, but we're glad to present this here. Going to the next one. Sure I didn't skip one there. Next, I want to talk about our Canadian data. There we've introduced environmental as well, and we introduced some additional tax expansions. So for Canada, when you look at our 2021 Canadian data, you'll see those tax expansions. So you can see things for provincial and territorial, local, and go down to the Indigenous level as well, and get into the Canadian pension plan. So a lot of categories broken out there. And within each of these tables, you'll see further breakouts as well. So instead of just seeing kind of lump sums of certain tax types, you now see things like sales tax and property tax. So excited that we have the ability to report Canadian tax impacts at a much more granular level in a way that has been what we've heard from users, what is going to speak to their constituents. On the environmental data side, just like we had with the US, we have an environmental tab. There you'll see just the 2 tabs for the summary and the details. Canada, they went ahead and did the step of converting things into CO2 equivalents. So there, when you look at greenhouse gases, they will already be in CO2 equivalents. So no damage is added there, but a lot of new useful information to understand your environmental emissions and things going on in the region, as well as those associated with your impacts. And then commuting rates. So this is specific to US. So when you look at region details for the United States and navigate into study area data and choose area demographics, you'll see 2 new tiles. These tiles let you know what the in-commuting rate is and the out-commuting rate is for the income as a percentage of income in your region. We had a tedious way of allowing users to go into the SAM and pull data and calculate this manually, and that's been the case for many years. And so this has been added so that you can easily navigate to your region details into area demographics and conveniently find these indicators. and we'll send it over to Daniel to get into the next section.
Sweet. Hit that next slide for me, Maria.
Absolutely.
So we are now broaching the category where we're going to be talking about things that are slated for the next 6 months or so, but with a higher confidence interval. So the timeline might shift, but we're pretty confident in our desire and ability to deliver on some of these initiatives. You'll see that they're going to span a wide variety of areas within the platform as well. So we'll dig into the specifics here on the next slide. The first feature that we have up here is Rest of Region Builder. So this is a tool that we are adding to the regions page that's going to allow you to select either counties or CDs in any state and automatically generate a combined, quote, rest of region for that parent. So you could imagine a scenario where, maybe I have an enterprise in, Mecklenburg County in North Carolina, and I want to look at the effect of that on the rest of North Carolina. This tool will allow me to quickly and easily roll up the rest of that state into a combined region made up of either CDs or counties based on what I select, and insert that into my analysis without me having to do all the manual clicking that goes with that. This tool will also allow you to go all the way out to a US-wide analysis and choose whether or not you want to actually have the rest of the US be segmented into individual states, or look at that as a larger combined region as well. We're pretty excited about this. It's kind of pulling through some of the functionality that we have within the map embed that again is really just aimed at saving users time when we're trying to when y'all are trying to create bigger combined region analyses. And then speaking of map embed, we would like to bring this functionality to the core platform as well. And again, when we say core, we're talking about our non-guided workflows. So this is trying to bring all of the same, granularity, tagging manipulation, brandability, the embed, everything that we just talked about within our demo to core analyses. And that's going to be available for both US and Canadian and international regions. So this will have obviously a map that represents those other spaces when you create analyses within those regions. We think, again, this is going to be pretty useful for folks who are leveraging reporting outcomes in more of a marketing setting, and especially impactful for folks who want to go and showcase this, in their own web space. The embed really being a big piece of value that we're delivering with this. We'll keep the transition going, as far as bringing, meeting users where they are, we should say, with bulk event mapping for enterprise. So we spoke a little bit earlier about the template upload. This is going to be another pathway or another workflow where we are going to try to meet users where they are and where their data is. So this workflow will actually see you be able to upload your data as it sits, and there's a few small caveats to that. But essentially take your spreadsheet with your event data in it, upload it directly to IMPLAN, and then map that data to IMPLAN event data types, all within IMPLAN. So there's no more, pre-processing. Essentially, as long as you have headers on your spreadsheet, you can upload this directly, and IMPLAN is going to pretty much do the rest. Some of the key features within this, IMPLAN will auto-resolve your NAICS codes to IMPLAN industries. And we're also going to be able to resolve your region for a given event with a pretty wide amount of flexibility. So we'll be able to parse, things like an address or a zip code. Whatever format your data takes, we're going to try to do our best to meet it where it is. So we'll be able to actually auto-resolve those things to IMPLAN regions as well. The events all then get auto-created for you and applied to the appropriate region per your data set. Again, getting to the why, not everybody has the same level of data quality when they come to IMPLAN. And so we're really trying to add multiple different pathways for folks depending on, where they are sort of on the data maturity spectrum. This workflow is really going to serve users who have, not only that high volume of data, but also a high quality of data. So users that'll find value in this probably already have NAICS codes and really just need help getting that bulk information into IMPLAN. But again, our goal is to really cut their data entry and analysis configuration time pretty significantly with features like this. Moving right ahead, and again, talking about the expansion of some of the functionality that we're bringing over from guides into the core platform. We will also be expanding our summary reporting. So everything that we touched on in the now segment around bringing kind of that high-level, concise analysis overview to U.S. analyses is also going to be made available for Canadian and international analyses. We're really trying to make sure that we have feature parity, whenever possible, and we want to make sure that we're making these easy use features as available as we can for pretty much everybody. We can go ahead and move on to data library, Maria. We spoke very briefly about the splash page a minute ago. We also are going to be extending our work, over the course of the next 6 months into the data library dashboards themselves. And again, if you don't have access to data library today, reach out to your CSM or your salesperson. If you have a national package, this is something you probably already have access to and maybe are either familiar with or just haven't quite touched it yet. In any scenario, there is a wealth of information in there that is guaranteed to be useful to somebody. So please go check it out. The what here is we are reordering and reworking all of the filtering within our data library dashboards to help users focus on the ones that they actually need to use in order to get relevant data from the dashboard. There are a lot of additional filters that are defaulted and required to form a full query, but are often things that users just don't need to manipulate right off the bat. And so we are trying to prioritize really the user-dependent selections that drive a lot of those dashboards to try to make them easier to use. We're also including mouse overs on all filters that are going to explain what that filter is, really in a quick, brief blurb. And then we're also adding a drawer to each dashboard that has a slightly more in-depth look at, the data present within that dashboard and also how to use that dashboard specifically. So there shouldn't be as much exploration time involved. There really shouldn't be as much trial and error for users to get value out of data library, even for newer folks or folks returning to the platform. So we're excited to see that hopefully make a dent in folks' ability to use data library to great effect for them and their constituents. And then I think, Maria, are you going to tell us about the commuting rates?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
All right, so to kind of round us out on the things that are coming next, we'll be taking things a step forward on that commuting rate work I talked about earlier. So you can now see what your commuting rates are in the underlying data. Specifically, that in commuting rate is actually used in our analyses. So when you run an analysis and you have some employee compensation impact, which is usually the case, that employee compensation is going to be based on, it's going to use that commuting rate to base how much of that employee compensation stays in the region. So we have a lot of people who were going through that process of pulling out the SAM, calculating their commuting rate, and then doing more manual processes to adjust their event to counteract that commuting rate. So on the analysis side, what's coming next is actually a toggle here for EC commute rate. So our employee compensation commuting rate is going to be by default SAM, so based on that social accounting matrix. But a secondary option is now presented here via the drop-down to select 100% local. And so what this will do is disregard that commuting rate and say, we're going to treat 100% of that employee compensation you're analyzing, so the direct employee compensation in the case of an IIA event, and it's going to treat it as all staying within the region. This will also carry forward if you're doing an MRIO analysis to prevent any trade from happening in that MRIO analysis of that direct employee compensation. So easy way to tweak your analysis if you have information about location of workers, and you can always keep the default of SAM or modify your analysis however suits you. And that takes us into our final section of features for later highlights. we've got a lot of really interesting irons in the fire when it comes to things that we're workshopping. One of them is price change modeling. So as I imagine a lot of folks on this call know that IMPLAN bases their impacts on backward linkages. So we're going to look at expanding to forward linkages to get into some cost push analysis or price change modeling that still maintain IO assumptions. We'll also be looking at leveraging those forward linkages in a supply-driven contribution analysis so that you can see how resources are used as they are supplied to other industries to kind of get a sense of not how production impacts a supply chain, but rather how a resource supports other industry activities as being used as an input by those industries. So kind of changing the direction there. We're also looking at power series multipliers. So this looks at rounds of impacts. This is going to help our users potentially do more supply chain analyses. And it can also help us tease out our greenhouse gas emissions into scope 1 and 2 and 3 emissions. So we'll be presenting even more details on potentially impacts as well as the greenhouse gases so that we are more in sync with industry standard for environmental reporting. Coming over to the right side, we'll have full-time equivalent conversions being added to events and results. So this is a way to let us know that, hey, actually I don't have a figure that corresponds with IMPLAN employment. Instead, I have a full-time equivalent. This is going to support our users from entering that in an event and seeing information about full-time equivalent job impacts on the results side, if that's the indicator that you're more interested in reporting, as opposed to the way IMPLAN defines employment. And I'll hand it over to Daniel to hit the next two.
Sweet. So one of the things that we are planning on tackling later this year, and again, for all of these items, these are, still slated for later 2025, but probably with a lower confidence interval than some of our other goals. We would love to round out the modeling picture for our tourism guide by adding residential spending, kind of similar to the way that we added operations to our mixed use development guide. This is just another user feedback item that we have heard from a couple of folks and would, again, love to really round that modeling picture out with. And then once we get the bulk event mapping feature live within the enterprise guide, we're going to look to bring that to the core platform as well, pretty much as soon as we can, so that we can continue to maintain that feature parity that we've talked about.
Great. And to round us out, the one thing that has a lot more certainty than the others here on this page is the 528 time series. So as you all know, we rolled out 2023 data in the 528 scheme. But when you work in those projects with the 2023 data, you'll notice when you go to the drop down on data year, that's the only year you have. So there's no capability to compare 2023 in a consistent scheme with other years. In order to do that, we have to develop time series data, which means producing 2001 through 2022 all in the 528 scheme so that we can present those data sets. So that will allow us to also make the introduction, make that introduction over on the data library side as well. All right, so that takes us through our content and we'll be calling out some feedback. Daniel?
Yeah, go ahead and hit that next slide for me. And we'll plug the site and your CSM or salesperson one more time. Again, we love interacting with y'all. Really appreciate the feedback. I know there's folks on the call that I've personally, spoken with and done product informational interviews with. So, we are here for y'all. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Like Maria said, that kind of puts a bow on the content for today, and I know we are pushing our time envelope here. Candy, do we have anything in the chat that needs answering?
I have been answering everything live, so we are all set.
Fantastic. If there are any questions, speak now or forever hold your peace, and we will leave that for maybe just a second. And if we don't see any questions, which Candy, I don't believe we do,
Nope.
I think we will go ahead and wrap it for today. Thank y'all so much for spending a little bit of time with us on your busy afternoons. We're excited about what IMPLAN has in store for the next 6 months or so and beyond. We hope you are too. We will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. This was so much fun, Daniel. Bye-bye.
Likewise.